Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Vamsi Duvvuri, TMT AI Leader for Ernst& Young, EY. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Vijay Kotu, the Chief Analytics Officer of ServiceNow. Vijay, welcome to the conversation.
Hello, Vamsi. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Now, normally when we have these conversations, I ask you to introduce yourself, although I actually did some research on your background and I was fascinated by the fact that you started as a data engineer, then you went on to do a lot of customer insights and marketing analytics. So you sort of like looked at the business side of things, and then eventually that led to data science. A fascinating experience. Looking back at that experience, were there some specific experiences or milestones that you want to share about in the context of what we're going to talk about today?
Vamsi, that's a good question. I can reflect back on what happened before. I'll tell two stories. I'll share with you a couple of stories there. Story number one, this almost happened about 20 years ago when I was still kind of writing queries from a database, creating a prediction model, etc. I was working in a small startup company in San Francisco, and there was an executive meeting that I was not part of. And someone else was in that meeting. Looks like they discussed about some numbers, data coming in. And a few days later, one of the participants of that meeting came to me and then said, hey, there was some analysis I presented about a business. This was the business leader, this person. And he said, and there were some people were challenging this business leader's assumptions, data, etc. And people asked, hey, where did the data come from? And this person said, oh, it came from my name, Vijay's team. And after that, they just moved on. So we're good, right? I think one thing that established that is it's like the trust. We are in a trust business, right? Particularly, we are providing a single source of truth for the entire company. And that trust that people have in us was so important in the business. So that was a kind of a reinforcement learning on this one. It's not about recreating some sets of data sets or recreating some insights out of it. It ultimately is the trust that we are establishing with our stakeholders there. So that was one kind of poignant moment there that I was thinking, oh my God, this is really serious now, right? Rather than just writing an analysis or report or whatever. And the other thing that happened a few years ago, I would say, when I was in this leadership position, I came to ServiceNow, and John Donahoe was the CEO back then, and first came into the company, really excited. Let's do great things in this company. And the first order of business was to create our overall analytics strategy. And with data included, AI included. So I need to present our analytics strategy for the entire company. So I've met with every single leader and they all said, this is great. So I kept adding many things to the strategy to serve everyone because that's my job. And I go to this meeting with a 30-page PowerPoint deck on how I'm going to change analytics for the company with the executive team. And John Donahoe said, like, stop. What are the 5 things you're going to do for the entire company?
Yep.
And I wasn't clear about the 5 things for the company. And he said, your job is to create decision-making capabilities for the company. So what are the 5 decisions we can do better as a company that you're going to create? I didn't have an answer. So the 30-minute meeting ended by 3 minutes. So obviously disappointing, but my learning that came out of that meeting and kind of making sure that we're coming back with even better strategy that is fully honed and really connects to the purpose of what we do. Like our purpose here is to create decision-making capabilities across the company. And to instill that purpose and clarity on the focus, that was the greatest learning I had personally. So those are 2 poignant moments, great learnings, I should say, but 2 stories that stand out to reinforce what we do and why we do what we do.
Yeah, I think, you could not have said this better, right? Like it's all about trust at the end of the day. And the way I kind of reflect to your story is, we've all created 30-page PowerPoint, 50-page PowerPoints, etc. Rule number one is if you don't list the data source, if your footnotes are not there, what's the point of the insight? Because nobody can trust it. So I absolutely love that experience, and thanks for sharing. So let's pivot to from that personal experience and a lesson to what enterprises should do and how they think about AI. And I think let's start with trust. And trust is built through transparency, visibility, oversight, and governance. Now, we both know that many of the AI projects, POCs, what have you, stall because they fail to deliver real value. And I believe trust is a big piece of that. So, how can today's leaders, business leaders, instill that trust and visibility into AI projects so that they can measure how well or not these things are working?
Great question. The one thing I keep saying is the connection between a pilot to actual product is going to be math, right? Trusting in math. So there are five things that matters in any AI use case evaluation. Number
Okay.
one is clarity into who is it for, which persona, which role is this use case targeting, and how many people are in that persona.
Yeah.
And if this use case is really good, then you would want almost all of them using it. So the next measure is how many people are actually using the product,
Right.
right? So do we measure that? MAUs and etc., right? And the third one I would say is accuracy and sentiment.
Mhm.
So for any AI use case, whether it is prediction model, prescription model, generative models, or agentic model right now, it doesn't matter. There are some technical accuracy measures
Yeah.
that we can use. And sentiment is how people are using it. What is their thumbs up, thumbs down feedback? Do we have that? And the next one I would say is what is the operational business metric that this
Mm.
particular use case is changing? For
Got
example,
it.
you have AI use case to improve the speed at which we are serving our customers. So in that case, it's going to be mean time to resolution or resolution rate, etc. So what is that business metric that this particular AI use case is going to improve or decrease? And the last one is anything should be converted into value. For most organization, the value is going to be improving the top line or
Mhm.
bottom line. Right. So how do we have these five measures at a use case level? So we know which one is actually working or not, and laddering out that into overall program level. That's probably the best way for us to manage the roadkills that we'll have using some of the pilots, right? Versus few great use cases that going to pull us forward.
Got it. So, love those five, I guess, imperatives. Just a quick follow up. In your experience, when you're talking to a lot of business leaders, I'm sure some are doing better at measurement, some are better at figuring out the personas. Is there one of the five where you see most leaders, struggle?
Yeah. So five measures are essential because these are going into different dimensions of that particular use case. The one that most people struggle is converting this purpose of this use case to value,
Mhm.
even though it's a simple assumptions and calculations that we need to do. And it is okay to make assumptions. So
Yeah,
going back to your analogy that we would need to provide data, the providence of data, it's just like that. It's okay to make assumptions as long as assumptions are transparent. But there is a way that we should convert use case performance into value performance in terms of either top line growth for the company or bottom line.
right. Got it. So now taking that conversation forward, we talked about what are the imperatives and where people are struggling. how can using technology maybe or certain processes now enterprises embed that governance, that measurement, and trust around privacy, compliance, those types of things into an AI solution?
That's a great question. This is a governance and incorporation of security, privacy, etc. is a major concern right now, right?
Mhm.
And realistically, there are only few people who wake up every day and they think about, oh, I need to improve the governance. And there are special set of people. We have a couple in our own team on this one, right? But for rest of the teams, right, we need to make it so simple
Right.
so everyone can adhere to the governance principles. So if we ask anyone, do you agree with these governance principles? They would say, yeah, I do agree. I care about privacy. I care about security. Then why do we have non-compliance into those policies there, right? So how do we make it so easy? And this is part of their process. So at ServiceNow, what we did is we created an app called AI Control Tower,
Mhm.
which brings all this life cycle of how one creates a use case, gets the data, and incorporate our policies within those use cases, declare them in this app called AI Control Tower. That actually triggers workflow for our governance teams, privacy teams, and security teams. So they approve both the use case, but also the data set that is used for those use cases. So that is all in the system. That's the only way for you to launch AI use case inside the company. So this is part of the process there. And I think it is important to have this as part of the process rather than as a sideline there, right? And once the use case is approved, then you can start measuring and managing these use cases. So those 5 metrics I talked about, who is it for? Who is actually using it? Are the models even working well? What business metric it is improving and value? So we kind of coded in all those measures right there in the tool. So that becomes the interface on how we are managing AI workload across the company.
Got it. Vijay, thanks again for such an engaging conversation and joining us today. For more interviews and insights, please visit cdomagazine.tech.